embedded to it. So you can see that, okay, for nerve cell, we call it neuron. Neuron, they have this structure. They have dendrite. Dendrite, they are like the tree branches. They receive signal from other neuron. It's really like the branch of the tree. So may I ask why? How come tree has so much branching, has so much branches? It's because they try to maximize the capturing of sunlight. Similarly, dendrite. Why do neurons have such an elaborate dendritic process or dendritic arborization? Because they try to maximize the chances to form connection with other neuron, or to maximize the chances of receiving signals from other neuron. Like most other cell, neuron has nucleus that contains DNA, chromosome and stuff. Yes, a cell body. Cell body, we usually call them soma. And then we have something called myelin. Myelin, they are basically, as I told you, is formed by something called glial cell. It is a different cell type. These cells, they wrap around the neuron. One subtype of glial cell, we have different type. We have 5 types of glial cell. One subtype is called Schwann cell. Schwann cell is the one that wrap around. We call this part it's like the stem of a tree or the trunk of a tree. We call it axon. A-X-O-N, axon. So myelin sheath or the glial cell subtype Schwann cells wrap around the axon to form something called myelin sheath. When the cell wrap around multiple times around an axon, then most of the stuff that around the axon will be the cell membrane, phospholipid bilayer, and there are a lot of cholesterol embedded in the cell membrane. In between Schwann cell or in between the glial cell, we have knock of Ronfier. Many people just call it knock of Ranvier, but Ronfier is the correct terms. And then axon terminal is the end. In other words, the signal that travels through the axon is from the soma, from the soma all the way down to the axonal terminal. When you have a healthy myelin, then the signal can go through easy. When you have a healthy myelin like this one, or this one, or this one, then the signal can go through quickly. When you have a damaged or scarred myelin, then the signal will not travel quickly. Somehow the myelin can speed up the conduction speed. If you take physiology or the last class of this semester, if we have enough time, I will explain to you why having myelin speed up the transduction or the transduction of the action potential, the signal. So as I said, the steroid, they make hormones. Hormone, they are naturally occurring compound. They're secreted by glands. We call them endocrine glands. Endocrine glands. They affect, usually hormones affect metabolism or behavior of the cell. For example, thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone can speed up metabolism, and therefore it can generate heat to keep our body warm or try to maintain it at 37 degrees Celsius. Thyroid hormone. Behavior, for example, what we learn is of other cells. Let me see. Behavior of other cells. So, for example, there's something called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is a hormone secreted by adrenal gland. Not adrenal. Sorry. No, not adrenal. It is secreted by pituitary gland, anterior pituitary gland, ANPIT. Anterior pituitary gland will secrete TSH, and then TSH will travel by blood to go to thyroid gland, and the thyroid gland will secrete thyroid hormone. So that's what it means. The hormones, they can affect other cell. In this case, TSH is a hormone. It can affect the thyroid gland, the thyroid cell. Hormone attached to receptor on the cell surface. Well, if they are peptide hormone, or we call that protein hormone as well. Some people call it protein hormone, or intracellularly called steroid hormone. What does it mean? If it is a peptide hormone or protein hormone, they cannot go through the cell membrane, because many protein, they are either too large or they are hydrophilic. They have some polar, or they may contain some charges. Because of that, peptide hormone or protein hormone cannot go through the phospholipid bilayer. The only way they can affect the cell is that they bind to the receptor on the cell surface. And then the cell surface membrane receptor can trigger chemical pathway inside the cell cytoplasm. For steroid hormone, steroid hormone, as you remember, they are mostly hydrophobic. They are, in other words, when they're hydrophobic or they're nonpolar, they can go through the cell membrane. When they can go through the cell membrane, then they can bind to the intracellular, meaning that the intracellular receptor, they can be in the cytoplasm. So the steroid hormone can go through the cell membrane and go into the cytoplasm and then bind to the receptor in the cytoplasm. Then it can trigger changes of the cell. Or the intracellular receptor can be in the nucleus, so that the steroid hormone can bind to the nuclear receptor, and then they form a hormone receptor complex, steroid hormone receptor complex in the nucleus, so that it can affect the protein synthesis, or we call it transcription translation process. So an example of peptide hormone is epinephrine. Epi means on top. Nephrin, from the word nephron. If you have studied the physiology of kidney, then you know that nephron is a functional subunit of kidney. So nephron is the one that will filter blood and to make urine. In other words, it is, you may call this, it means kidney. Since nephron is a functional subunit of kidney. Oh, by the way, each kidney, they have thousands of nephrons. In other words, epinephrine means that it is a peptide hormone secreted on top of a kidney. What is the organ on top of the kidney? Adrenal gland. Adrenal gland, it is on top of the kidneys. AD means on top as well. Renal also means kidney. So this gland is located on top of the kidney, and it secretes a peptide hormone called epinephrine. It literally means on top of the kidney as well. So this peptide hormone, what do we call it? We call it adrenal hormone, adrenaline. Yeah, adrenaline. It is one of the two types of adrenaline. So the other one, we call it norepinephrine. And peptide hormone. So adrenaline is a very famous example, okay? Everyone knows that when you're nervous, then you have the adrenaline rush. So after the adrenal gland secreted adrenaline or epinephrine into the blood, and it will travel into the capillary, and then the epinephrine will move across the capillary into this blue area. The blue area here, it is called interstitial fluid, and then you will go to bind to a receptor in the plasma membrane, the receptor protein. When it binds to the receptor protein here, this is the receptor protein here, then it will, it will trigger something called cyclic AMP pathway, or second messenger pathway, or cyclic AMP cascade, or second messenger cascade. And this is the picture we see here is an oversimplified pathway. You can assume that so this purple thingy here, we call it G protein. G protein. So after the epinephrine binds to the receptor, then the receptor will activate this G protein, and this G protein will detach and move to a membrane, cell membrane enzyme. It will actually activate this cell membrane enzyme by binding to this cell membrane enzyme. So it will bind to this cell membrane enzyme here. It will bind to cell membrane enzyme here, and then activate this cell membrane enzyme. And what does this cell membrane enzyme do? This cell membrane enzyme, basically, it will convert ATP into cyclic AMP. So there are names for this cyclic AMP. We call it second messenger because the first messenger is epinephrine. So what does cyclic AMP, the second messenger, do? This second messenger basically will activate a lot of chemical reaction inside the cell. For example, you can tell the cell to break down glycogen into glucose. Now, well, this is another question for you. Name the process. What is the name of this reaction of breaking down glycogen into glucose? Think about this. Let me give you tips. Is it dehydration or is it hydrolysis? Think about this. Well, the correct answer is hydrolysis. Breaking down glycogen into glucose is an example of hydrolysis. So this cyclic AMP pathway or G protein coupled cascade or second messenger cascade, there are all sorts of names. One of the function is to break down glycogen into glucose. When what? When you have a low blood glucose level, when your body needs more glucose, when your body needs more energy, then they will break down glycogen into glucose so that your body can use glucose to make more ATP. What about